Good morning, students. I am Professor T.C. Venkateswarlu, Department of Biotechnology, Vignan's Foundation for Science, Technology and Research. So in the current semester, I will teach the Industrial Biotechnology subject. So your Industrial Biotechnology subject, so it has chapters. The chapter 1, it is about the introduction of the bioprocess, and chapter 2 is making of primary metabolites manufacturing process, and chapter 3 is manufacturing of secondary metabolites, chapter 4 manufacturing of enzymes, and chapter 5 is the production of modern biotechnology products. This is your Industrial Biotechnology subject. So it typically talks about how to manufacture bioproducts. It starts from the primary metabolites, secondary metabolites, and making of enzymes, and also a modern biotechnology products. So the course outcomes of this course: understand what is the typical view of the industrial fermentation process for producing different bioproducts, and we can apply the knowledge of the fermentation principles for making the different products, which includes the primary and secondary metabolites. So we can design the process flow sheet for enhanced production of bioproducts and identify what is the suitable method for production of bioproducts, which includes especially the modern biotechnology products such as recombinant proteins. So with this, we can see the first topic in our syllabus. It is the overview of the industrial fermentation process. So this industrial fermentation process overview can be applicable for producing a different class of molecules. Again, I am repeating, which includes primary and secondary metabolites. So the contents in today's topic, we will see what is fermentation and components of the fermentation process. And you can see the basically stages in fermentation process, which are includes the steps in upstream and downstream processing, followed by summary and references. Here the industrial fermentation. What is fermentation process? So the fermentation process, it basically a chemical reaction. It can brought up using microorganisms. So the microorganisms, which includes the bacteria, you can use different cells. So we can use the yeast, and you can use algae. So we can use the different microorganisms for producing of the economically important product, to produce economically important products. So these products have a good commercial demand, especially in pharmaceutical field. So we have applications in food industry. So as I told, in a well-established process, we have a typical steps. So which includes the formulation of the medium, and followed by the sterilization of the medium, and the third one is the production of the active and pure culture. So which is nothing but the inoculum development process, which is nothing but inoculum development stage. And production of the specific selective microorganism for bulk production of the molecules in a reactor, followed by the extraction and purification of the product, and the last one is the disposal of the effluents. So this you can see here, this represents the typical view of the industrial fermentation process. So our fermentation process, it can be begins with the selection of the inoculum. So it can begins with the selection of inoculum. Here we can see the first one is the stock culture. So the industrial strains you need to preserve to maintain their viability, of the potential industrial strains, and you have to avoid the contamination of the selected cell. So we have to avoid the contamination of the selected microorganisms. This culturing process is very much essential. The stock cultures we can maintain by two ways. So one generalized way, and you can and labs the already students may perform. So we can frequently transfer the culture of microorganism onto a medium. We can prepare this agar slants. So there is a, you can preserve in a refrigerators. So in a normal general fridge, in a deep fridge where temperature is 4 degrees, where you can maintain from 2 to 3 months. So if you want to preserve for more time these industrial strains, then we can use the lyophilization process. We can use lyophilization process. So this lyophilization process, it can make use of temperature where minus 196 temperature, very low temperature. You can freeze the cells at very low temperature. It usually requires the use of the liquid nitrogen, so that you can preserve your cells for a longer time, so without losing the cell viability. This whatever the strain, the stock culture, the culture of microorganism you have selected for industrial scale fermentation process, so the strain should be potential enough. The strain should be potential enough to produce the maximum growth of the cells, and also the strain should have a more genetic stability, which is very much essential feature of the inoculum. Inoculum is nothing but dense mass of cells. So your selected cells should have a more genetic stability, and that should produce the more growth of the cells. So then our second step is flask fermentation process. Is usually it is a lab scale fermentation process. It is a lab scale fermentation process. So where we can run the fermentation in a conical flask. Here this flask can be filled up with a fermentation medium, and you have to inoculate your microbial cell, and you can run the fermentation for producing products. So these cells, inoculated cells, they can grow in a fermentation medium. That's what the first component we have given for medium requirement. What is this here? The medium. So this fermentation medium, which is very much essential for growth of inoculated cells. You can see here the medium is nothing but it is consist of different nutritional sources or substances, so which are very much essential for growth of microbial cells. Once if you grow the cells, you will get the biomass and product. For formulation of the medium, I told different raw materials required, which includes carbon, nitrogen and other mineral sources. So then using these raw materials, we can formulate the medium. This is the most essential stage in the running fermentation process, because your overall quantity of the product and also a biomass levels, it is typically depends upon how your medium is working, how your medium is supporting for their growth. And once the medium is formulated, it can be subjected to the sterilization process. That's what I have written here, the medium sterilization. Steam sterilization process, where temperature we can maintain 121 degrees and the pressure at 15 lbs pressure, and you can run the process for 15 to 20 minutes. So this high temperature, so which eliminates all, we can remove all contaminants from freshly prepared medium. So now this freshly prepared medium we can transfer into a seed fermenter here. The seed fermentation process, it is basically it is a pre-fermentation stage in any industry. So the pre-fermentation stage, where your reactor can be filled up with a fermentation medium. Here the volume of the medium, it should be basically the 5% to the large scale reactor. So then allowed to grow these cells in a first seed fermenter. So the running this seed fermentation process, we have basically advantages. So it reduces the overall fermentation time. I am writing here, it reduces overall fermentation time. running this process has advantage. That is, it reduces overall fermentation time. And also you are going to develop the inoculum here, which is nothing but inoculum development stage. So here inoculum, which is nothing but the dense mass of cells. Dense mass of cells. So we are going to proliferate the mass of cells first in a seed reactor, so that overall fermentation time is reduces. How it reduces means your production tank is a larger reactor. It contains the more volume of the medium. So if you inoculate a small culture directly, it takes more time to grow. That's what you can run seed fermentation process. So once the fermentation is completed, so now I told it very typically fermentation process, it requires the microorganisms. That means we need different cells, or sometimes we can use the component of the cells like enzymes we can use. So now these cells can convert the substrate into the product. This is the fermentation principle, very simple. Our approach can make use of the cells, which may be a bacteria, yeast or algae. So now these cells, by the metabolic reaction, they can convert the substrate into the product. So now this really industrially you are going to run this fermentation process in your larger tanks. You can see here the typical accessories of a fermenter. A fermenter is basically, it is a vessel. So a vessel with all controlling parameters, it provides a suitable environment. The impeller, here you can see the rotating fan. This is impeller. When you apply the power, this motor start rotating. So now these impellers, they can facilitate for uniform distribution of the nutrients to the inoculated cells. So we can see here the color one is indicative that it is a culture broth. So the baffles can be installed on the inner side corner of the tank. They are very much essential to avoid the vortex formation. There is inlet and outlet. So usually in the aeration process, it requires supply of oxygen. We can pump from the bottom of the tank. So with this, you can see here now your fermentation process has typically the two stages. One is the upstream processing and the second one is the downstream processing. So in the process flow sheet here from stock culture selection to the formation of the product. Here there is a formation of substrate to product by the microbial cells. So now up to the stock culture selection, formulation of the medium and running the fermentation process is a upstream processing. In this process flow sheet, this is the upstream processing, USP. So once process is completed, now our product is ready. Then say stage 2 is you have to recover this released product from the cell. So for that we have to separate the cell separation and you have to separate the clear supernatant. This is a solid liquid separation. Here the cells which are nothing but the grown particulate matter in the liquid medium. So upon filtration or centrifugation we can separate. So then if your product is of extracellular type, you can use supernatant and go for extraction. This is basically a concentration stage. So where you can selectively extract your product of interest, and during the concentration stage you can also eliminate other undesirable materials. Then the next stage is product of purification. So purification, it requires a set of unit operations, especially the chromatography. So the chromatography is a very important unit operation for purification. Then you can go for product formulation and packing. So there are two stages in industrial fermentation process, upstream and downstream processing. So your upstream processing, the selection of raw material to the product formation is a upstream processing. You can see during the fermentation you can observe the major conversion. This conversion is nothing but, again I am writing here, substrate conversion to the product by the action of microbial cells. And your second stage is the downstream processing. So where we can apply various unit operations. It is a multi-step process, downstream processing. So by definition, this downstream processing, so we can call it as it is a extraction, purification, and formulation of the desirable product. Formulation of the desirable product from the culture broth is called downstream process. From the culture broth. So as a process engineer, so we have to apply the unit operations for maximum recovery of the product, and we can also reduce the cost of the process. This is the goal of the process engineer. So I told the recovery process, purification process requires set of unit operations. So we have to reduce the number of unit operations required for each stage so that we can reduce the cost also. So our upstream processing, it can focuses on three main areas. Here we can see the first one is the selection of producer microorganism. Producer microorganism isolation, or we can use the stored culture. So it is very much essential. The industrial strain selection is very much essential. So the industrial strains has some specific features. As I told, this strains has the more genetic stability, and these strains have capable of converting substrate into product with a faster rate. There is a more conversion rate by the cells. These strains have more conversion rate. And these cells have the capacity to produce the high quantity of the biomass. These three are very much essential features of an industrial strain. So if a strain is not potent enough, so we can see here we can go for strain improvement. The strain improvement, it is nothing but you are going to modify the nucleotide bases. You are going to allow the mutations either by using chemical treatment or physical treatment. So this inducing the mutations by the chemical treatment. So if it is a chemical treatment, we can use the NTZ as the chemical mutagen. And if it is a physical treatment, like I am writing here, if it is the physical treatment, we can use the UV radiation. Very low cost method in the labs is available. Students may practice this one. Here the cells can expose to the UV radiation, or the cell suspension can treat with the NTZ, so which can induces the mutations. So these mutations may certainly helps for increasing the productivity and yield. That's what it is. A strain improvement is most essential stage in the industrial scale fermentation for enhancing the productivity and also for getting the yield and for getting more biomass also if it is a growth associated product. And in a strain selection, we have another factor we have to see is the strain purity. So your inoculum, it should be free from the contamination. That's what we are going to preserve the cultures for while running the industrial scale fermentation process to reuse the same. So if the purity of the inoculum is good enough, you will get the good quality of the product. I am writing here the good quality of the product. You will get a good quality of the product if the inoculum quality is pure. And inoculum development, I told the inoculum is dense mass of cells. So this dense mass of cells, first you have to allow to grow in a seed fermentation tank to proliferate. So that the more quantity of the cells will be ready for your large scale production process. And your upstream processing, it can also focuses on second one is medium formulation, fermentation medium. I told medium is it consists of various nutritional sources which are very much essential for the growth of the cells, which is very much essential for growth of cells. And third major area of the upstream processing is the running fermentation process. That means you have to operate your reactor either in, you can operate in batch mode, or you can operate in a fed batch mode, or you can run in a continuous process. So this mode of operation, so we have to select based on the product you are working. See here, the second factor is the fermentation medium. I told medium consists of different nutritional sources, nitrogen sources. So this carbon and nitrogen sources, you need to consider it as they are the major nutritional sources. I am writing here, they are the major nutritional sources of the fermentation medium. So this carbon source which provides a lot of energy for doing metabolism, and this your nitrogen source will help for getting the more quantity of the biomass. These two are very much essential for formulation of the medium. So while formulating medium, you need to see the other important factor, that is the ratio of C:N. Ratio of the C:N. Any fermentation formulated medium, it is highly influenced with the ratio of the C:N, carbon and nitrogen ratio. In general, you can prefer the 3:1 is a preferred one for formulating the medium. But sometimes this ratio will be altered. It is again based on what kind of inoculum you are selected for a process and what kind of product you are working. This ratio will be varied. So along with carbon and nitrogen sources, your medium will also contains the other mineral sources. Sometimes you can provide with growth factors, and you can add precursors, and if required, you can also supplement anti-foam agents. So this anti-foam agents supplement, it is more essential, especially to avoid a foam formation. So you can see here, your fermentation process you are going to typically run in a reactor. You can see here the reactor. So it is a vessel. I told the reactor is a vessel. It consists of impeller. So this impeller, this is an impeller. So this impeller is very much essential for mediating proper mixing. And reactor, it also contains the baffles here. These baffles are required to avoid the vortex formation. So during the mixing process, sometimes there is a generation of foam here. Based on the composition of the medium, there sometimes you can observe the foam formation. So to avoid this foam formation, so we can supplement this medium, we can supplement with anti-foam agents. You can supplement with anti-foam agent. So for this anti-foam agents, you can use different examples, like you can use silicone oil is preferred one. Or sometimes you can use other vegetable oils, etc. So these oils can reduces the foam formation. But here, while adding these oils, it should be at a minimal level. Otherwise, the medium properties inside the reactor is varied. So this inside the medium, there is a lowering of the dissolved oxygen concentration. Sometimes the cells which are subjected to the death also. So that's what we have to supply the minimal quantity of the oils. I told you the formulated medium, it should follow certain criteria. The selected raw materials, there should be appropriate, there can be appropriate quantity of the desirable product must produce. So whatever the raw materials used for formulation of the medium, this medium must support to produce more quantity of the end product. And this also consistently quality materials you have to use. And the materials what we have selected, they should not show any toxic effect. There should be no toxic substances. And it should not affect the physiological parameters of the fermentation vessel, such as the temperature, and you can use, during the fermentation process, you can maintain various required conditions based on inoculated cell, which includes temperature, aeration rate, and pH. Most preferably. And the third factor in the upstream processing is a mode of fermentation process. How you are running your fermentation process, whether you are running in a batch mode or in fed batch mode and continuous mode, it is most essential to get more quantity of the product. The fermentation modes you can run in 3 modes. First one here you have written batch process. So in a batch process, here you can see here it represents the reactor here. It consists of again the impeller, I represents impeller. So now this can be filled up with a fermentation medium, the tank. So in the batch fermentation process, this addition of the fermentation medium and inoculum, it can be done at once. You are going to supply the inoculation. So once the recovery of the product, now once you can inoculate your microbial cells, so they can convert the substrate into the product. Here the recovery of this product, it can be done at the end of the process. That's what here you are written. The broth removes at the end of process. So batch process is well preferred one because it carries easy operation. And the basic disadvantage is only one main drawback is there is a long downtime between the batches. It is the drawback of this process. And you can go for second mode of operation, so which is a fed batch operation. So in a fed batch operation, first for certain time you can run in a batch mode. See here, first initially you have to work out with initial volume of the medium. Inside the reactor, around you can keep 40% of the medium and you have to initially grow the cells. So later you have to identify the substrate limitation stage, you have to identify. Then you have to additionally feed the nutritional sources. The additional feeding of these nutritional substances, they can enhance your cell mass quantity. Here the cell mass concentration. The additional supplement of the nutritional sources, they can enhance the cell mass concentration. But in a fed batch system, what we have to say is, so we have to optimize the time profile required for feeding of the nutritional sources. And they are well preferred to produce high biomass and also to get more quantity of the product, you can use the fed batch system. So in general, in a fed batch system, you can see the extended log phase. All inoculated cells, they can use as growth patterns. So the cells will grow like this, growth patterns, the lag phase, there is a log phase here in the middle. So most of your primary metabolites you can recover here. They are growth associated, and here in between middle you have a deceleration phase and stationary phase. So growth, all cells inoculated inside the vessel, they can follow these phases. The recovery of secondary metabolites usually can done at stationary phase, secondary metabolites. And your primary metabolites recovered during the log phase. It is exponential growth phase. So if you run this fed batch process, the main advantage is you can see here the extended log phase. You can see here log phase is extended. So because of this, you will get more cell mass concentration. You will get more cell mass concentration. For a growth associated product, it is directly proportional to the product concentration. So indirectly, if you rise this one, you will get more quantity of the product. That's what fed batch is preferred to produce high biomass density and high product yield. And third mode of operation is the continuous mode of operation. So in the continuous process here you can see there is a continuous addition of the feed. The feed can be continuously supplied to the inoculated cells, you can observe here. And also a recovery can be done at the same time. Addition and recovery at the same time. But while adding this feed nutrients and while recovery of the cells, inside the reactor the medium volume must be constant. It should be constant. Otherwise there is a washout problem. If you add, if feed rate is high, sometimes through the outlet your cells will be goes out. So you will going to lose the cells. So if you lose these cells, indirectly you are going to lose the product also. That's what we have to see. Both must be maintained at a equal rate. You can go for downstream processing. So in the downstream processing, there are three major stages. First one is the cell harvesting, and the second one is cell rupturing, followed by a purification and formulation of the product from the growth medium. This is the most important. Your downstream process, it talks about the extraction, purification and formulation of the product. Extraction, purification and formulation of the product from the culture broth is the downstream processing. So in each stage it requires the several unit operations. Each stage it requires the different unit operations. So we can see here the typical view of the downstream processing flow chart here. So here the yellow line which indicates that the upstream processing, USP is upstream processing. Once upstream is completed, I told already, your cells can convert the substrate to the product. Now your product is ready. Your product is ready. So this product you have to recover. So now these products synthesized by the microbial cells, there are two types. So now P represents products. So first one is the intracellular type products and second one is the extracellular type products. If the product is of the intracellular type, so they can be accumulated inside the cell. You can see here the circle indicates the cell. Your product can be accumulated inside the cell. P represent product. If it is the extracellular product type, during the growth process, your cell can release the product out. There is a secretion. So for intracellular products, you can see most of the recombinant proteins, they are example for intracellular products. And your extracellular products, you can see most of the primary metabolites. Most of the primary metabolites, I am writing here primary metabolites are examples for extracellular products. So if the product is of the intracellular type, it requires the cell disruption. You can see here, because product is there inside the cell, you have to rupture first. So there are different cell disruption methods which includes chemical, enzymatic and mechanical methods. So you need to rupture the cell first by using any one this method. Once the cell is ruptured, so we have to separate the solid and the liquid again by using unit operations, centrifugation, extraction or filtration. If the product is of the extracellular type, directly you can go for the solid liquid separation. This is the stage 1 of downstream processing. So what we have represented here, these three are main unit operations required for separation of ground cells, that is solid matter and liquid supernatant. So once you can separate, you can collect the supernatant as the source of your product. The supernatant contains your product of interest. So you can go for second stage, that is concentration stage. You can go for second stage, that is concentration stage. A concentration stage, the concentration we can define that. So it is a selective isolation of your product. I can say the concentration is selective isolation of the product. Selective isolation of the product is a concentration. Or you can say that the removal of unwanted materials. Removal of unwanted materials. So the removal of unwanted impurities and isolation of your desirable product selectively, you can call it as concentration. So this can be achieved by using unit operations. Most preferably, you have mentioned here 3 unit operations. So one is the evaporation, and second one is the ultrafiltration, and third one is precipitation. Third one is precipitation. So once concentration stage is completed, your molecule, your product is now partially pure. I am writing here, the product is partially pure after completion of concentration stage. So for removing still the fine impurities, so you can go for the next stage, that is the purification stage. The purification process, it requires a set of unit operations, mainly chromatography techniques. Chromatography, basically it is a separation technique. Chromatography, basically it is an separation technique. Separation technique. So this technique, it can be used for separation of your product. Impurities can be removed by applying chromatography methods. And your final product, what you are getting, so that can be subjected to the formulation. Final, after purification, your product must be formulated, formulation stage. So this formulation you can done by using either by drying process, and or you can apply the freeze drying process, or sometimes you can do crystallization, or sometimes you can do the granulation also. So this application, it is majorly depends upon which kind of product you are working. So you can see here, if the product is of the intracellular type, so first you have to go for the cell rupturing process, the cell disruption. Your cell contains a product is accumulated inside the cell. The recovery can be starts only by the rupture. You have to break this surface of the cell. So this rupturing process, it requires the different methods. I told majorly the mechanical and non-mechanical methods. So in the non-mechanical methods, so I have given the osmotic shock, first one here. The osmotic shock, it is a sudden change. There is a osmotic imbalance. You can see the osmotic imbalance. You can see osmotic imbalance. Here the cells, you can put it in your water. Because of this imbalance, your water start moving inside the cell, and cell subjected to the rupturing. The cell will be disturbed. And other way is, and next method is, you can treat with various solvents, or you can give the treatment with alkali. You can raise simply the pH of the solution, so which leads to the rupturing of the cell. This is the method. Or you can use the enzymatic method for rupturing of the cells. So in the enzymatic method, the preferred known example, you can use the lysozyme. So it is well preferred, well-known enzyme for rupturing of the cells. Only the drawback associated with method is the cost of the process. Cost of the process, and this lysis process usually preferred when your cell mass quantity is small in range. Small in range. You have a low range of cell mass, you can use enzymatic method. And you can use second one is the mechanical methods. In a mechanical methods where you have a solid shear, where you can use bead mill type, and or you can use French press machines for rupturing of the cells. And in the liquid shear, you can use high pressure homogenization process for rupturing cells, or you can give the ultrasonic waves sonication process for rupturing of the cells. The first one is the French press. This is also called it as French pressure press. The French pressure press. So these machines can use for rupturing of the cells. What we will do in this method is, your cell suspension, see here in the bottom, your cell suspension, you can put it in a cylinder. So subjected to the forcing, there is generation applying of the more force by using a pump here. So with high pressure in the range 10,000 to 50,000 psi, this liquid suspension is forced. So this force can be generated at the small orifice. So this force can ruptures the force will be generated on cell particle here. So it leads no rupturing. Bead mill process. Bead mill. Here you can see the grinding of the cells with glass beads. Grinding of the cells with glass beads. So in the grinding of the cells with the glass beads is preferred method when you have a more quantity of the cell mass. So your cell mass is more, you can prefer this one, at especially in a R&D scale of the industry you can prefer. So it contains a cylinder here. In a cylinder there is a provision for addition of the raw materials. Your cells can be collected and that can be put it in a cylinder. So it also contains the beads here. That's what it is, a grinding process, grinding of the cells with the beads. So then you can apply the power for rotating this motor. So there is an agitation process. Particles which are nothing but cells. During rotation process, the cells also circulate along with the beads, and these beads can generate force. Here you can see the particle and you can see the beads here. So in between the beads, the cell is subjected to the crushing. There is a rupturing process because of force generated by this rotation. And other method you can see here, it is a high pressure homogenization process. High pressure homogenization process. In high pressure homogenization process, here the suspension we can pass through a small orifice. You can see here the orifice, it is small in size. It is around 50 micrometer in size. So we can pass this cell suspension through this orifice. When here the force will be generated because of this impact, and this force will leads to the rupturing of the cell. You can see here there is a reduction of the particle size. Here the cell rupture you are going to get because of forcing the liquid with high pressure in the range 15 to 40 bar. And you can see other method is a ultrasonic method. In ultrasonication method we can use the ultrasonic waves. So where amplitude range you can use more than 18 kilohertz. So you can see here the typical view of the sonicator. So there is a provision here, we have a sonication probe. So you can apply the ultrasonic waves in amplitude of more than 18 kilohertz. Now it enhances the cavitation is get induced here. See, observe this image here. There is an intact cell. Inside the cell there is your product of interest. There is the intracellular protein, your target protein you can observe here. So now this target protein, it is there inside the cell. So because of the cavitation induced by this ultrasonication process, there is a formation of the holes where all cell surface can be get ruptured and intracellular molecules can be get released out. Go for solid liquid separation. For solid liquid separation, I told we have a different unit operations. Preferably the main unit operation is filtration process. So in the filtration process requires there is a filter aid. So from the top side we can pass the liquid. All cells can be, then all cells know they can be trapped here, all particulate, and we will get a clear liquid. So here the filtration process is typically depends upon the size of organism, and also it can be influenced by the presence of other organisms and viscosity of the medium. And second unit operation as preferred for a solid liquid separation is the centrifugation process. So here the separation is based on the density difference between the particles to be separated and medium. Here the force, now you can see here the cell particle. So the force during the centrifugation process, the force acting on the cell is centrifugal force. So it can be used for separation of generally solid particulate matter and clear liquids supernatant. And you can go for concentration stage. I told the concentration is nothing but the selective isolation, or you can remove other impurities. This can be achieved by using different unit operations. Mainly you can use evaporation process. So this evaporation process is nothing but the removal of water from the filtrate. So there is a simple process where you can apply the heat for removal of the solvents. Usually for recovery of the most of primary metabolites, example you can use the various solvents you can use for the recovery process. So now these solvents can be get evaporated by applying the heat. That's what evaporation is preferred for concentration of most of primary metabolites. And you can see the next method is the membrane based separation method. Here we have represented ultrafiltration method. So this ultrafiltration method is most important method for concentration of the molecules. So ultrafiltration, it is a pressure driven membrane based separation process. Ultrafiltration, it is a pressure driven membrane separation process. So it can be used for, I told, purification of the proteins, concentration of the proteins. So during the concentration stage, you can achieve the partial purification. You can use the different membrane-based separation technique. You can use microfiltration, dialysis, and ultrafiltration. Here we have represented the ultrafiltration, where the membrane size, it is pore size varies between 0.001 to 0.05 micrometer. Here you can see. So this ultrafiltration process, usually it can be achieved by a tangential flow. It is nothing but a cross flow filtration process. So because if you use the cross flow filtration method, there are some advantages. Here the feed containing your product of interest. The feed is nothing but your solution contains your product of interest. It can pump onto the surface of the membrane. Here these lines which are indicates that they are membrane. I am writing here it is a membrane. So there are different membranes. For example, you can see you can use the nylon membrane, or you can use the polyester. So this membrane, basically they have a porosity property. That's what they have given gap here. There is a porosity property. So when you pass a feed, so this feed, it contains a different solutes along with your desirable molecule. It has different sizes. Here you can see the small size represented yellow color, and we have a large size particle, large in size. Size is most important. And this is a small size particles. So now this solution, it can be fed onto the surface of membrane. So while passing this membrane, all molecules, the smaller molecules, so which have the size lesser than the pore size of the membrane, they can pass through this one, pores of membrane, they can come out. So what is the come out from through this membrane, you can call it as permeate. You can call it as permeate. All larger molecules, they have a greater size, more than the pore size of this membrane. So they can be retained on the top side. You can see here, there are large particles here. The large particles, they can be retained on the surface of this one. You can call it as retentate. Retentate. Here the product recovery either in a permeate, or you can get a product in retentate based on the size of product. So in membrane filtrations, typically you have to know major one is the molecular cutoff, molecular weight cutoff. So the molecular weight cutoff, it is a main parameter for selection of membranes. So each product has different molecular weight. You have based on the weight, you have to select this cassette. So basically this setup looks like this. There is a cassette here. Cassette is nothing but membrane cassette here. So this is a membrane cassette. So now this cassette can be filled up with a membrane. Inside there is a membrane. So you can feed here, pass the feed, and your solution can pass through these pores of this one. You will get a permeate. And other side, whatever the large molecule can be reside, you can call it as retentate. I told already. So your cross flow filtration process, what it is the advantage by running the cross flow filtration process is, so we will provide a more surface area. You can see here, we will provide more surface area. That is advantages of this method. If you provide the more surface area for a feed to pass, so that we will allowing the more distribution of the solution, so that there is a more permeation you can get, so that the separation process can be achieved effectively by using cross flow filtration, and also we can avoid the clogging problem. There is a blockage of pores of the membrane is minimized if you use cross flow filtration process. Then you can see the next one is the precipitation. It is also very much useful for concentration of the biological molecules, especially the proteins and polysaccharides. I have written here proteins and polysaccharides can be precipitated. So for precipitation we can use the neutral salts. It is the well preferred salt is we can use ammonium sulfate. So ammonium sulfate is well preferred salt because it has high solubility and it is non-toxic to the proteins and it is low priced. That's what it is well preferred. So here the addition of this ammonium sulfate, they can increases the hydrophobic interactions between the proteins, which results in precipitation. So the precipitation we can also done by using a non-ionic polymers. For example, you can give a pegylation treatment. Addition of the PEG, it is a polyethylene glycol. So this it reduces the amount of water available for protein solvation, so that you can get precipitation. The PEG also preferred because it does not denature your protein of interest, and other side it is a non-toxic. That's what we can use pegylation also. The precipitation we can also achieve by changing pH, and we can do the affinity precipitation also, where you can see the affinity interaction is exploited for precipitation of the proteins. For example, affinity between antigen and antibody. Then once if you complete concentration stage, your product is more than 70% pure. Still any fine impurities are there, they can be removed during the purification stage. This purification can be achieved by using unit operation, that is chromatography. I told chromatography is basically it is a separation technique, so it can be well preferred in all for purification of pharmaceuticals, diagnostic compounds. It is a very effective purification method. So in a chromatography system, it consists of two phases, basically a support phase, you can call it a stationary phase, and there is a mobile phase, preferably it is a liquid solvent phase, it is a mobile phase. So we can see here the two chromatography techniques majorly preferred in purification process. First one is the gel permeation chromatography. So this gel permeation chromatography, we can also call it as size exclusion chromatography. In this method, the separation is based on the molecular size of the molecules. It can be well preferred for determination of the molecular weight of the compounds. We can use this method, and this method also used for removal of the salts. Low molecular weight solutes can be removed. The stationary phase in a gel permeation chromatography, the support phase, you can use the Softex gel, or you can use agar gel, or you can use acrylamide gel supporting phase, and the liquid medium is mobile phase is basically liquid. Till view how the gel permeation chromatography will work. So there is a column here. You can see in the figure is a column. So now this column you have to fed with a sample. Sample can be passed from the top side of this column. So your sample, it contains different molecules, smaller size and larger size molecules. So we have represented here, there is a small size, small in size. Size is most important because it is where separation you can see based on size. And we have a larger particles here, large in size. So now while passing this sample solution through this column, so inside this column is packed with a stationary phase material, a Softex here packed, a porous gel. So this packed material has porosity. It contains some small pores. So while passing all small molecules, they can retain for some time inside this bead. You can observe here, there is a retain inside the bead. So while passing, they can be retained, smaller molecules can be retained for some time, and all larger molecules, you can see here the large particles, all large particles, they can come out fast. They can come out fast. So like that, you can recover first the elimination of larger molecules. All smaller molecules can be eluted out later. So like this, the selective molecule can be recovered. That's what this method is preferred for determination of molecular weight of the compounds. Another method is the ion exchange method. Ion exchange chromatography is also well preferred for purification of most of the proteins. Here the purification can be based on the ionic interaction on the surface of the material packed inside a column. So we have two types of columns here you can use. One is the cationic exchanges. For this example is you can use CMC. CMC is carboxymethyl cellulose. You can use CMC. Carboxymethyl cellulose, they are typical examples for cation exchanges. And for anion exchanges, you can see example is the DEAE columns, DEAE material. So you can see here diethyl aminoethyl cellulose is well preferred stationary phase. Ion exchange chromatography is highly influenced with the pH of the medium, is very crucial in the ion exchange chromatography process because it may alter the net charge by varying the pH. So you can see here a column can be packed with a matrix material. We have packed with an anion exchanger, that is a DEAE column. So this column has it is a positive in charge. So from the top side of the solution we can pump the feed. So feed now it contains both positive and negative molecules. So all negative molecules on the surface of a desirable protein, they can bound here. Other molecules can be eliminated out. So later the bound molecules, by using high salt solution, you can pump from the top of the column and you can selectively recover your bound molecules. You can go for formulation stage. That is the last stage in downstream processing. I told for downstream processing is nothing but extraction, concentration, purification and formulation of the product. Now you are formulating, it is the end stage. So formulation, it is nothing but a maintenance of the activity and stability. Formulation, where you are going to focus on two parameters. One is the activity of the compounds and the stability of the compound. Especially most of biotechnological products, while transporting or while storing, so we have to focus on what is their activity and stability. So this can be done by using different unit operations. Your unit operation selection again typically based on what kind of product you are working. So we can use the spray drying process. Here the spray drying is one of the most important unit operation for recovery of the bioproducts. For example, if you see the most probiotics can be formulated. Here the spray drying is nothing but converting a liquid into a powder by passing the liquid solution through the hot air. There is a drying unit you can observe here. So now this drying unit you can pump with a hot air. From this you can pump the feed from the top of side of this dryer. Here the most important stage is the feeding of the sample. You have to pump the sample as droplets, drop by drop. The liquid can be fed into a drying chamber as droplets. So once this droplet, it can be exposed to a very high temperature, more than where temperature range 150 to 300 degrees. Very high temperature, it can expose for a very short time. It exposed around 1 to 10 seconds. The cells can expose so that they can be dried out. This dried powder, it can be sent into a cyclone separator. From this we can remove all particulate matter from the powder, and remaining dry powder by the centrifugal force we can collect the powder. And you can use the freeze drying also. It is well preferred process for formulation of the most of the pharmaceutical products and also for most of food materials, even diagnostics and your bacteria, because it is well preferred. The reason is you cannot lose any biological activity of the desired product. That's what it is well preferred method. So the principle in a freeze drying process, it works based on the sublimation. Here first the liquid containing your product of interest must be frozen, and later it is subjected to the drying under vacuum condition. For example, your antibiotics penicillin can be make it a powder form by using freeze drying. So going to your summary steps, your fermentation process has two stages. So one is the upstream processing and second one is the downstream processing and development, and also a formulation of the fermentation medium, and also a selection of the operation, and sometimes the optimization process is also very much essential to enhance the growth of the cells. And in the downstream processing, it focuses on extraction, purification of your desirable product. These are all references needs to follow for this topic. Thank you.